All right, let's talk about a few things I wish I knew about when I started taking photos 9 years ago. So this video is not necessarily going to be about how to become a social media success, but rather a better photographer. I'm not saying that they can't go hand in hand, but from my experience, I've seen how photographers tend to get sucked into the trap of creating content just for the sake of getting more likes and not actually improving their skills. And I personally believe that if you develop your skills and you improve your photography first, then the social media fame will come naturally as well. You got to get good, and then it'll be much easier for you to game the algorithm in your favor. So with that out of the way, let's start with the first thing that I wish I knew when I started taking photos, and that is that gear does not matter as much as you think. So I know it might sound a bit hypocritical given that I've done gear reviews and that I do, love playing with cool cameras, but if you're just getting started, you can very easily overwhelm yourself with the constant need to buy better cameras. New lenses and stuff like that are just not needed when it comes to learning how to fundamentally take better photos. It's actually probably doing you more harm than good. So, a little bit about me. So when I first started shooting in 2014, I bought a secondhand Canon 5D Mark I and a 51.8 lens, and I used that setup for a year. At the time, that was a pretty ancient setup. I mean, the 5D Mark I came out in 2005. So, but I believe that the limitations that it brought with it actually ended up helping me evolve and to become a better photographer. In the same way that I think that, if you shoot a lot of digital and you start shooting film, it'll actually help you be a lot more decisive with your shots and you won't just spray and pray everywhere. So that's, another little bit of advice that I think really helped me in my photography journey. In 2015, about a year later, I bought this 5D Mark III. And I mean, I've got a lot of good memories with this camera. This is very sentimental to me, but I became, at the time when I just started, I'd become obsessed with thinking that I needed every single, every lens, all the accessories, everything, just in case, like who knows, maybe I'll need to use it on a shoot or whatever. And I spent so much money buying like a 70-200 2.8, a handful of primes, an ultra wide as well, and my photography, it didn't really improve much over what I was getting with my old 5D and 51.8. In fact, I hardly ever actually touched the 7200 because it was way too heavy. And as for the primes, I just sort of figured out the focal length that I liked, and I just kind of rolled with just one lens pretty much at the time. And it wasn't until I got fed up with having all of this expensive gear and experiencing, decision paralysis, which meant that I was more focused on which lens I should bring with me to a shoot, what camera upgrade to go for, rather than actually taking photos, that, I ended up selling most of it. And I just kept my camera and a 24-70 f4. And I forced myself to just use that combo and not waste any money on any more gear. That's a fairly common occurrence, and you might have heard of it. It might even happen to you as well. It's called gas gear acquisition syndrome. Well, this approach of minimal camera gear actually worked wonders, and I continued to use this 5D Mark III for many years to come. And I only bought it was a Canon R6 in 2021, about 6 years later. And that was because my Mark III, as you can see, it's sort of got grips like rubber falling off of it, and it's been used and abused, but it still works. It's just, this camera, I think at the moment has about 170,000 on the shutter count. And it was at like 1,000 when I bought it. So I definitely use this camera a lot. The thing is, right, like expensive camera gear is awesome. It's a lot of fun to shoot with cool cameras, but if you're just starting out, buy the best that you can afford and don't stress about having new features, because usually it's not having modern conveniences that will actually make you a better photographer in the long run. I think, the limitations will definitely help you more than you might think. Some of my favorite photos, they've been taken with a cheap little Ricoh GR point and shoot that cost me just $180. I actually made a video on that camera as well. Feel free to check that out. Get good at what you have first, and then you can always upgrade in the future. For number 2, don't focus on the money, at least not at the start. If you work a day job and you have big aspirations of charging big bucks for your photography skills, that's great, but you really need to realize that until you've developed your skills to the point of being able to ask people to pay for them, you'll need to shoot for free. What I mean by for free. So I can already hear a lot of people in the comments getting upset about how, creatives need to be paid for their time. And, I agree with this 100%, but if you're just getting started taking photos, your number one priority should be to shoot more photos, because The only way you'll ever improve as a photographer, it's like many things in life, is with experience. So I knew a photographer when I first started shooting that would ask me how he would ask me how I was getting such great portraits. And when I had told him that I shot 3 to 4 times a week, amateur models, and really anyone I could find, my friends, family as well, for free, he became discouraged, because for him, he felt like if he wasn't getting paid for his time, it wasn't worth it. And this is a terrible attitude to have. And his photography, reflected his attitude. And he wasn't he wasn't a big time photographer at the time. He was also a beginner as well. So it's just one of those things. Work for free, just try and shoot as much as you can. Having said that though, I'm not suggesting that you go out and you shoot content for people for free who are using it to earn money from you. For example, like for a business or for promotional work and stuff like that. That's a different story entirely. If someone's willing to pay for the work, absolutely, you should definitely take the money. But I suppose this only really applies if you want to get better at shooting portraits, for example, and you want to work with models, right? You can easily join Facebook groups where you can find other inexperienced models who would be willing to collab with you for free. You guys both get experience and it looks great in your portfolio. You can always, another thing that I used to do as well, you can always email modeling agencies in your area and ask if they have any new models that are available for test shoots. This was actually a way that I was able to work with many agency represented models while starting out as a 17-year-old with little to no budget. This also has the benefit of being an excellent way to network, and ultimately that's actually extremely important in generating leads and getting work. And if you're finding these tips helpful, please like the video. So now for number 3, and this was pretty important too, keep creating, all right? Don't stop taking photos. Don't stop getting inspiration from other photographers, and don't stop sharing your work and getting feedback. Take your camera with you everywhere. Photograph things around the house, photograph your friends, photograph your family. This also has the benefit of being an excellent way to actually document your life as well. But with every photo that you take, you get better and better. There are so many incredible free YouTube videos available that can easily help you with learning almost anything about photography, and you do not need to waste money and time on a photography course. If you're already doing a photography course, that's great, but if you're just getting started, and again, tips for beginners, if you're just getting started, you should really try to take advantage of all the incredible free resources that you have available to you on YouTube and online as well. If you're interested in, for example, landscape photography or stuff which doesn't even require people, then it's even easier to keep shooting. Just go for a long drive and try to capture the scenery around you. Point number 4, and I think this one goes hand in hand with number 3, but do not get complacent. You should always be striving to improve your skills. Even 9 years later, I still learn new things about photography, and I'm still eager to learn new things as well. So I got some excellent advice when I first started photography, which I'd like to share with you. And I was posting frequently to photography groups. And at the time I thought, this was like a local photography group, so I thought my work was better than anyone else in the group. I know I was pretty arrogant back then, but I was feeling smug and content. And a photographer friend of mine at the time, he told me that I shouldn't compare myself to those around me. I should instead compare myself to the best in the world and try to be better than them. And this is a great piece of advice. And for those that don't maybe understand exactly what he means by that, at my position at least, I was really interested in shooting portraits and fashion. So instead of just developing my skills, becoming better than local photographers in my area, and then calling it a day and stopping the learning there, I instead started to study and learn about how I could be as good as the all-time greats. I'm talking world-class photographers that shot for Vogue and other huge fashion publications, studying the techniques that they used, how they posed models, and watching interviews and behind the scenes content with them. It just really supercharged my skills as a photographer. Going hand in hand with that as well, being self-critical and understanding how to take criticism is extremely important as well. You have to ask for feedback from people who know what they're talking about. They will typically give you advice that will actually help you improve. And usually I never ask friends who aren't photographers for advice, because to them, any photo you show them is going to be great. Like, they're your friends. They don't know what they're talking about. If you really want to improve, ask for feedback from people who are better than you at what you are doing. And don't get upset when they tear your work apart, because if you're just getting started, your work's probably not that good. But that's okay, because everyone has to start somewhere. I know that if I look back at all my early work, I cringe at some of the edits that I had been doing. When I had this weird period of strong desaturation in all my photos at the time, because it was really trendy on Instagram to do that. Look at this. This is awful. Why is everyone so pale? I don't understand. It's one of those things where it's I look back at that and you self-reflect. And finally, for number 5, and this is a pretty important one, but you should really really take photos of things that you are interested in. Don't just go and shoot photos because you think it's, you know, good for the algorithm. Like, if you aren't genuinely interested in the subject matter, it will show through in your photos, and you will also grow to not enjoy photography. I know I myself am fairly guilty of following the algorithm. Back in the day, I shot pretty raunchy content for a good number of years because it's what got lots and lots of likes. But, you know, recently I wanted to sort of focus more on fashion and venture out to other less, you know, X-rated endeavors. And the 6,000 plus followers that I had amassed on Instagram basically gave me no interaction unless I posted a fairly risque image, in which case the likes would just go through the roof, right? But I guess sex does sell, and you should follow me on Instagram. But until I learned to realize that, you know, it literally doesn't matter. I mean, as long as you like the work that you're producing, you will improve, you will become better with every attempt. You just got to keep at it, you know? And if you're watching this and you're a photographer that might, you know, if you're established already, and you're wanting to try and kind of move away or try to change directions in your photographic work, and you're realizing that, like, and you're getting a little bit upset because your engagement might not be as great because perhaps your audience doesn't really care for it. At the end of the day, you can always develop a new audience. If you like it and you enjoy it, keep shooting it, because that's what will make you happiest, and that way you will produce the best work possible. Don't go chasing likes. It's not worth it. That's all I can say. I think that the social media validation is like, everyone wants it. I totally understand it, but, you know, there's more to this than just, are you creating art, or are you just like trying to get likes? Like, because if you're just trying to get likes, then I just don't think that your photography will ever be as good as it could be if you put genuine emotion into it and you actually, you know, give a shit about the subject matter, basically. That's all I can say. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. If you're a beginner photographer, I really hope these tips helped you out. If you enjoyed the video, please do subscribe. I've got lots of great photography content coming in the future. And yeah, have a lovely day. See you later. Bye.